And the third part of the disassembly um, the Zorki 6. These are the shutter curtains. I got them out last time, right? And I was going to go through the full disassembly of the shutter curtains without taking them off the rollers, because I'm not yet sure if I will replace them or not. The curtains look good, so there are no cracks in the rubber layer on either curtain. All the ribbons look good. They are still flexible, they are light tight, so there is no real reason to actually replace the curtains or the ribbons. In order to fully disassemble the curtains, first of all, I like to make a little mark on this shaft that corresponds to the screw that is under here. Now, even if I'm not replacing the curtains, I will re-glue them, because this old glue is all dried out, so it's it's not gluing the ribbons to the rollers. Actually, they are simply kept in place by friction more. I am not going to upset the attachment points. I'll consider them correct. I don't really think they are correct. This is one aspect that I forgot to check during the disassembly, whether the two edges of the curtains are perfectly parallel to one another or not. Now, if there is a slight cant or a slight misalignment, that can be fixed even without reattaching the ribbons, and maybe we'll need to cover that as well. But for the time being, I will just use some alcohol to clean a bit of the residue of the old glue and reattach them in their current configuration. I will start with this one, for as far as I have already removed it from the roller. And I will use the marks of the old glue to apply the new glue, so I don't go overboard with it. Alright, and for the other one, I could just strip it back a bit, glue this end, and then glue the other end, and it will be perfectly fine. The forces are small enough to not cause any kind of issues, because nothing is pulling the ribbon apart, so perpendicular to its insertion. All the forces are in the long axis. I don't know if that's the correct term for that, and they are not strong enough to actually rip it apart. I mean, I've seen cameras work that had these kind of ribbons barely sticking to the rollers, and they were working just fine. maybe it's not the most correct way of doing things. Probably the best thing would be to actually replace them just as a safety measure, but that might also be considered a bit over the top, so I'm not going to do that. And also this end, just a bit of glue here would be enough. All right, now on the other side I will not re-glue the end right now. I'm just pulling it apart slightly, and here inside the hole there is a screw now, and this is what I was trying to say with the little mark. I usually make a scratch mark here on the shaft that corresponds to the heads of the screws. You have one screw here and another screw somewhere around here. Now, after you take this one out, you can remove the lower roller. Watch for any shims. Nothing here. And nothing here. And then you can remove the drum. Nothing here. And nothing here. Some cameras have shims between the rollers and the drum, some don't, this one doesn't. And this is the other screw. It requires a smaller screwdriver. And now you can remove the top roller as well. This one is sometimes a bit more stubborn, and in order not to deform the roller, because this is the only thing that connects the outer rim to the middle or the axis part of the roller, I use this part of the pliers or of the I'm very tired and I forgot how it's called. Anyhow, that part of this tool to press down on this rim. Tweezers. It's called the tweezers. Well, it's not budging. Well, I can leave it in place. It's not a big deal, but it would be a bit easier to work on without the roller on the shaft. Nothing. Alright, I'll just leave it like this because I don't want to screw up anything. And now I can remove this part from this part. All right. And now to get inside of this roller, you simply unscrew the little cap that's on the upper end. And this is what's inside. This is the spring, the cap, and the old lubricant that is very dried, and it's in a sticky shape. Okay, and you will notice a difference between this one and the other shaft with the spring. That is the same length, but the spring is located towards the center of the shaft. Now, in order to get to it without taking the curtain off, now this is a bit more tricky because the curtain is covering the little cap. Now it's like 0.5 millimeters exposed, but I don't think it's enough to allow me to grip it. Yeah, it's not. So one option would be to slightly peel off the curtain, just enough to get some grip. All right. And this is the other one. All right. And I will place them inside the little box. So rollers, screws, then we still have a couple of bits left on the bottom plate. We have this plate with the contacts for the flash. And this little gear, which is the restrainer gear, and it has another nut, a lock nut, just like the spring-loaded shafts. Okay, and while turning the nut, oh, that one stays still. Okay, so this is unscrewing to the right. While this one unscrews to the right also. And this is the bare bottom plate. Next we have these two bits. Now this one is an easy one. There's only one screw left here. This one is the one that keeps it connected to the part above it, and that little guy keeps this piece, the piece inside, the one with the two prongs, and the spring in place. So we'll also take them apart to clean. Okay, and this one, this gear is connected directly to the shutter, so it will spin with the speed of the shutter, and if it's not spinning freely, it will slow down the movement of the shutter. This one is not spinning freely at all, it's clogged. It has a circlip, which is a nice thing because on the Fed cameras, the Fed 2 especially, they used a bit of a wire that went through a hole, and it's very difficult to put back. Easy to take out, difficult to put back. Now, this one also has some shims. Usually there is one here, this one. Then you have the gear itself, and sometimes it has another piece, this one on the bottom, and perhaps another shim, but this one doesn't have one. So that's the gear, this is the lower spacer, and this is the shaft. And I will put them in which slot. I guess I'll just put them here. Okay. All right. Then we have the self-timer, which has some oil marks on it, so maybe somebody was here recently. And it's kept in place by 3 screws, 1, 2, and another one here that is smaller. Right, and there should be a pin, this one, that takes the movement from the self-timer to the long flat spring, and thus releases the shutter. So this will go here, pin, and 3 little screws. Alright, then we have the rangefinder assembly and we are done. Now I will take apart the rangefinder assembly as much as possible. So starting from back to front, you have, I hope you actually see what I'm doing. 3 screws that keep in place a little plate, and these screws are quite tight and have signs of some thread locker, so use the correct screwdriver and apply a lot of downward pressure. So you have this plate. Then you need to remove this little screw on the top part of the diopter adjuster, and then the diopter lens simply gets out of the way. All right. Then you have a bracket here. Right. You also have two screws here that keep in place this little shield, or it's not actually a shield but a mask in front of the rangefinder image. Now this top shield or whatever it is, you don't really have to remove it because it doesn't really do anything. It keeps the prism in place, but the prism is already glued, so it doesn't really matter. And now to remove the rangefinder assembly, you need to remove 1, 2, 3, 4 screws, and it should lift up. Now in my humble and limited experience, getting it out is a matter of fiddling around with it. Putting it back is a lot trickier because you have to get the rangefinder arm, so the one that comes in contact with the lens, through a very small hole. And while taking it out is, I don't know, maybe a question of luck in some cases, putting it back, not so easy. We'll see how it goes. If it doesn't go according to plan, then we'll have to get the rangefinder arm separated from the rest of the rangefinder assembly and take them apart into pieces. Note that one screw is longer, and is this one here. Okay, so this one lifts, and that was easy. Now let's see if I can get it back the same way. So this is the rangefinder arm, and it points towards the front of the camera. And now I need to move it to the left. While trying to see that for some reason it came out easily and it's not going back in so easily. So I'll not force it anymore because I'm going to take it apart anyway. Okay, but before taking that apart, we still have one more screw here that does nothing. We still have this piece, which is a bit different from the last one I worked on, that I will take out so I can clean it. we have the two wires that I will take out. Okay, because I need to paint the body. So alright, so this entire thing comes out, and it has only one possible position in which you align these two slots with those two holes, and the entire shaft should be able to move down and get out. So this is different from the last one I worked on. That one had a hole here and a threaded hole with a screw. If you took out the screw, you'd have a spring and a little ball on the end of the spring, and the ball would stick inside of one of two grooves on the shaft, so you would have that clicking feel when you were pulling the rewind knob up or putting it back down. This one is a lot simpler and is a friction fit piece, like in the Fed 2, I suppose. Alright, that screw does nothing, it just protrudes here. So I don't know what that is about. And we still have this. That I will take apart because I want to polish the inside of the hole here. And also I want to take this one out for the same reason. I want to really polish everything that I can. 2 screwdrivers, and there it goes. Now this one, this prong at the end, is more inclined on this side than on this side, and the marks here show that it should sit something like this, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so the inclined side is opposite to the latch. The latch is the cane-shaped part, okay, and the more straight part of the prong should sit like this, so when it hits the latch, or when the latch hits it, it will lock on this part. Alright, so this is out. This should also come out, and we have 2 more screws here. And this entire thing lifts. Alright. And this is the stripped body shell. Nothing left on it, except for the leatherette that I will deal with next time. And we still have this 3 screws on the bottom, Okay, and now we have access to these two sides of the prism, and I can also take off the mask. And now I have access to all three sides of the prism, so I can clean it. This part, do not take it out. So don't disassemble this part, because you'll be in a lot of pain. There is a ball here, there is a ball underneath it, and this entire mirror prism, or whatever it is turning around, or it's rotating on those two little balls. Underneath these two screws there are two elliptical holes or slots in this upper plate, and that also those two holes allow for some movement and for some adjustment of the rangefinder image in the up-down position. Now if you take this off, let's say to clean stuff, you'll have a very hard time getting it back correctly when reassembly comes, so just leave it alone. You have one big screw here with the spring, and then you also have this one here, and that is actually the last bit that we will be taking apart. Now there is another sequence of shims and stuff. So you have screw, shim, the rangefinder arm that you need to wiggle back and forth carefully. Okay, then you have another shim, which is a bigger one, and then you can remove this part. Now this one was like this when I took it off, right? So this part is opposite to this part. The little notch in the upper part sits towards the flat riding side of the arm, all right, and the upper part points opposite to the arm. All right, and you also have this bracket that you have really no reason to take off, and this is the rangefinder assembly. So right now the camera is completely disassembled. I still have two little slots in which I can still place some pieces, and I will put this one because I know the order of the screws. Since there are only two screws, it's not much of a challenge. And I could also put this one. Okay. So let's see what we have here. Rangefinder, other bits and pieces from the rangefinder. This is from the rangefinder. This is from the rangefinder. I will leave them in their correct order, especially since, come on, sit there. There are different screws for different pieces. I just want to keep them organized. Okay, and we have the curtains on this side. And the box of goodies on this side. Two wires, bottom plate, top plate, the body shell, and the back plate. And this is one Zorki 6 fully taken apart. Alright, now next episode will be about the first steps of reassembly. Obviously the reassembly should go like this. I will not cover the cleaning part because it's nothing else than cleaning. Maybe I will touch a bit on what I polish and why. Curtains, we'll see if I replace them or not. So yeah, next episodes will be about the reassembly, the adjustment, the fine-tuning, and so on. See you next time.